For the people who do not know Suraj, I'll just give a quick, short, formal welcome. Suraj is an A licensed coach, and for those of you who don't know, there are not many A licensed coaches in India, so which is a very rare thing already. Suraj is an A licensed coach. He's a founder of Football Coaches Academy and also of Young Guns Football Academy, which is one of the most known and longest academy you can say in Thane. And he's an Indian coach who's also professionally done his courses and coaching in different countries. There are a couple of questions that have come up on the world of sports community already. We just hop on to them. So, being the founder of both the Football Coaches Academy and Young Guns Football Academy is quite an achievement. So, could you tell us more about the goals and missions of these academies and how they contribute to youth development in football?
Right. So yes, both those academies obviously they differ in their goals. One is, for example, Young Guns. It focuses more on local players in Thane and how we can try and create a pathway for all budding footballers, starting right from the age of 5 and until they reach adult age. So that is the goal of Young Guns overall. But then Football Coaches Academy is something which we are looking to run pan India, where we would like to educate as many coaches as possible in the right manner, something that the country really lacks, coach education. So obviously the association run their courses, but then there are so many more knowledge gaps that are yet to be filled. So this is where we try and come in and yes, we try and bridge those gaps.
For people who do not know, this is going to give you a gist of what Football Coaches Academy is all about. Even if you're not from the background of football, you can still try and understand what he's trying to say because there is a lot of contribution happening from their side, which I can surely give a vouch on. We have another question, which is from Neha. What got you into football and how did it start?
Yep. So obviously, like every other footballer, started off as playing and yeah, just continued playing. And at one stage, just realized that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But then I knew if I would stick to being a player, it would probably not mean a lot many years with me. So while I was at the age of 20, while I was in college, I just decided that I'll just I'll just try and be a coach so then I can be associated with the game for a longer time. Initially, I tried to be a coach, I tried to be a referee, I tried to be a manager for multiple events in football as well, just trying to understand what suits me best. And then in the end, I just chose coaching football would be the right path for me. So I started coaching in India and then moved to Australia, coached over there. But then right now in my journey, I just see that there's these young coaches who really need so much help that I could not probably get while starting out. And then I just see myself now in a role where I can probably support them by educating them. And obviously, the doors to professional coaching are not closed yet, but yeah, as of now, I'm just taking a backseat from that.
This is my personal follow-up question. What was better, playing as a footballer or coaching?
I was actually not, I did not receive a lot of guidance. The structure where I played, for example, I played on muddy pitches. So, and it was really cutthroat back then. It was pretty much survival of the fittest. Which is why my experience as a player was not as good as possible. But today, when I coach players, I just feel if I could just play under a nice coach and all the facilities would have been nice, and I would have started as early as possible, probably when I was 8, it would have been nothing like it really.
True. It's very different from how it used to be back then. There's so much guidance now, and then earlier I don't think there was much. So many leagues also now, so many opportunities for young players.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question from Ranila. As the only Indian coach to take the plunge into coaching pros overseas, what valuable nuggets of wisdom and experiences do you reckon you've picked up? And how can we sprinkle some of that back home to up our game in coaching and nurturing young talents in India?
So as I traveled in football, I actually understood the way different people across different countries operate, and not just countries but also within a country. If you're coaching in a small city compared to a big city, how things are different, and in the end coaching is all about people. So even though even though you're coaching football there, with their changing demographics, you have to change your coaching style. So for example, if you're coaching kids in a first world country, or if you're coaching in a city like Mumbai, but specifically in Bandra compared to somewhere in Virar. So all of these things, they really make a big difference in terms of how would you coach them, how would you talk with them, what actually motivates them, what drives them, what doesn't drive them at all. And you just learn so much with that, compared to just coaching in one city for all the time. Even if it means just coaching across India in multiple states, multiple cities, it really adds a lot more value. Um, to answer the question, how could I bring it back is, within the next 10 years, I can see India being there. Within the next 10 years, I can see our country as well being on par with uh, one of the good to do nations right now, at least in Asia. And then at least I am prepared for it. I know two steps in advance what I can expect from the changing ecosystem, changing football landscape. And I think that puts me in a position that I'm ready for it.
We're all hoping the same thing, that we see India there. And there's already a lot of changes. Like I said, it's very different from how it used to be now back then. Yeah, we have another question. Hello, sir. Achieving an A license in coaching is a significant accomplishment. Can you share how this certification has influenced your coaching philosophy and approach to youth development? Also, this question is from Austin.
Um, really nice questions. Really nice questions. Uh, Austin, my whole life it went chasing this piece of certificate. Really, um, I started off in India, and I tried to do my. I did my D license while I was studying in college, and back then it was just introduced. 2 years down the line, I tried to do my C license in India, but then I failed. And then I tried it the year again. I still failed. And then I just decided that I'll just I'll try again. But then the association could not allow me because there were so many participants and they had to give a chance to so many people. So then I just took a different approach. Long story short, the thing I within my early 20s, I just wanted to accomplish this before the age of 25, and I was really bogged down on it. And I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. But then, just moving overseas, I just realized that it's not a big deal if you do not have your A license, because what matters more is your experience in football, and what clubs have you worked with, who were your mentors, what actually is your vision and philosophy, and your football knowledge has got nothing to do on these coaching courses, because they just run for probably 7 to 10 days at a stretch. And then on these courses, yes, it helps you advance as a coach, but then as you can see, most of your coaching is done throughout the year. So that also plays a significant role. So finally, when I got the A license, it really felt like a tick of the box. It feels nice to be called an A license coach, but once I'm just one license lower than, for example, Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp, and you just if I get that one certificate, that does not mean I'm gonna be as good as them. Neither would it mean that I can get a job where they are working right now. So yes, a license matters, but it's just more like a prerequisite. So it's like a driver's license, where if you do not have a driver's license, then you cannot drive on the streets. But then what do you do with those, with your driver's license, is the main question. So you can choose to be a cab driver, or you can choose to be competing in the Formula One. So it's yeah, it's I in my opinion, it's a bit too glorified.
Yeah, it is definitely. But it is also a very good thing, and very. It needs a lot of hard work, because that I'm also seeing it very closely, how tough licensing is and how much research and study you have to do on your own. We'll move on to the next question, which is from Shriya. Hello, sir. What advice would you give to parents and guardians who have children aspiring to pursue a career in professional football?
Within youth development, what I've seen here is that parents, every weekend matters to them. So every weekend, the match that they play over the weekend, it really, it's like a um, it's like a test uh, that they perceive. For example, they just feel that every single weekend their kids, they have to win. And then if 2 or 3 weekends, if their kids have not won, or 6 7 weeks, their player has started to perform lower than what he or she used to, then uh, parents, I would not say panic, but then parents really start seeing it very negatively, and then they start, sometimes they just start to question the coach or the academy or the management, the way things are over there. And what I would suggest to parents is, if they could just be patient, because youth development is not a linear graph. There's gonna be times where it's not gonna be a straight line where you're just gonna see progress all the time. There's gonna be every player loses form. Every player has their ups, their downs. They have their personal lives. They sometimes they've got exam pressure. They've got some fights with friends. Something not going on in the family well. They might have health issues. All of these things, they really affect how a kid plays over the weekend. And it's a lot of things, and it can be really small things. But then if parents could just be patient, in the long run, as long as kids are playing matches at the level where they should just be fine. And there is no secret way, or there's not one right way to develop kids, and only one club can do it or one academy can do it. It's not like that at all. Anyone can do it, and it's very speculative. It's just like holding a pair of cards, and um, you can really never tell. There's players who would play average until the age of 17, and then suddenly within the next 2 years they perform really well. Or there's players who uh, play really well until the age of 12, and then they're not to be seen after the age of 13. Some players, they just lose interest in the game. So there's lots of things happening. But outside of football, if parents could just support their kids and just make sure that they're having fun with their friends wherever they are, that is really the essence of football.
Very true. And I think this is one of the most common question asked. Like, what can parents do? What is your advice on that? Because parents play a very important role when your child is pursuing football as their career. So very well answered. We have a funny question, which I don't think needs a lot of time. But who's your favorite footballer, Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi or Ronaldo? Oh my God. I would say, why do I have to pick only one of those two?
True, you can
Okay.
pick.
Can I pick anyone else?
Yeah, sure.
Growing up, I really liked Ronaldinho, because the way he played was obviously with a lot of flair, and he actually got young kids really watching the game. And if it wasn't for him or players like him who really brought flair to the game, then probably kids would have lost interest. The same way what happens right now with Messi and Ronaldo, or now with Vinicius Junior, Haaland, etc.
True. All right. There's a question from Arman. Suraj, I've got to say your journey is pretty damn amazing. Your career path and the awesome work you're into now are seriously impressive. Huge respect. My question to you is, what hurdles do you see in the world of football development in India, and any thoughts and on how we could tackle these challenges head on?
Well, the number one challenge that I see in India is infrastructure. It's a lack of infrastructure. Uh, so, for example, growing up, at least we just saw any space that we could, and then we just started to play, which right now is probably filled with cars. And now kids do not have any other place to go to, so they have to book a venue, and it's basically an entry barrier for playing football. Or they have to join an academy, which is fine. They teach you stuff. But if sport can be more accessible and more convenient, that is probably the need of the hour. We really lack infra for the number of people that are in the country, and the ones who are playing sport. We need a lot more football grounds, a lot more um, yeah, football grounds to start with, and then there is aim for then we can have proper organized leagues for all players, where good players are playing against good players, not so good players are playing against not so good players, etc. And then coach education and academies have their roles to play. So yeah, but infrastructure number one, where I can see India needs to really work on it.
True. Yeah, we have another question from Shaunak. How do I know that the kid is doing well and learning in the academy? What do I need to look for in an academy before enrolling the kid?
Great question, Shanak. And I've thought about this for multiple years. That if, for example, I was a layman and if I had to choose an academy, what would be my criteria, or how could I tell if this place is the right place or not? Uh, it's really difficult, Ronak. I as a football coach, you can see things. You can see simple things, for example, how good the coach is. But then, as a layman, I can understand it's very difficult to understand how good the coach is, because what makes a good coach is something that you don't know in the first place. But yes, if your coach is punctual, if your coach has high standards, if your coach looks like he's pushing your kid to be their best, not obviously not in an abusive manner, not verbally being abusive or physically being abusive. That is, those are boundaries that obviously should not be crossed. But if they are really pushing your kid, and you just sense it, that this person really cares about my kid, compared to there's coaches out there who just come down there for the money. They just deliver one session for an hour, just earn their buck, and they just leave. And you can really tell, if you just see those minute details, you can tell that if your kid is with the right person or not.
True, and I think no better person than you to ask this question because you've been in this field for I don't know how many years, but it's been so long because uh, I've seen my brother being so small and now he's so big. And even if today my mom has to give credit to two people for his career that he's still pursuing, it's not like he's stopped. He's still struggling and learning, and it's all because of a couple of coaches like you guys who've been the backbone and the start, the beginning of what it is called to pursue football as a career. Yeah. So there's another question from Jignesh. My question to you is, what advice would you give to young aspiring footballers who dream of playing at a professional level, especially those coming from regions with limited football infrastructure?
So you're asking about regional football, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the question was based on places where football ko itna, there are not too many sources. Like you mentioned, itne sare resources nahi hai
Yeah.
about those players who are trying to pursue.
Yeah, it's always gonna be difficult. It's always gonna be the metro cities producing better players compared to the tier two cities, if you may, because there's gonna be more infrastructure. There's gonna be more people who've settled in. There's gonna be more organized football, if you may, compared to regional areas. which is why there's like these residential setups that work in like places like Nashik or places like Karjat, etc. But then they do not find any competition near them, which is why their football development as players, it just gets restricted. But the only way that I could answer is if you could really travel somehow to the metro city, the nearest metro city, at least for matches or for maybe if not training, at least for matches, if you could, that would be the best approach. Yeah, because until tier one infrastructure is not saturated enough today, tier two infrastructure is not gonna be really it's not really gonna be thought about or invested into. So once tier one is done, then tier two, and then tier three cities, it will take its course.
True. I hope that answers their question. We have a question from Shanaya. Hi Suraj, for those young coaches out there with dreams of rocking an A license like you did, any tips on the journey?
Shania, just really just keep working hard as a coach. Do your hours, uh, uh, do your coaching, wherever level that you are at. Try and be the best version of yourself possible. Be honest to your job and learn as much as possible through books, reading books, through watching games, through playing games yourself, and develop your own football knowledge. And don't worry about just getting that tick off the box, because it's more like if you're competent enough, um, definitely you will be. If you're excelling in your field, you're gonna be deemed as competent at one stage. So don't get too bogged down on just getting the A license. Just try and be a good coach first.
Very true. We have a question from Rohit. Can you share some specific implemented initiatives or strategies to nurture young talent and promote youth development within the teams you've coached?
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So yeah. So good. Yeah. Good question, Roy. Very technical. So if you see what coaching football is all about, it's a mixture of tactics, it's a mixture of fitness, it's a mixture of psychology, and it's also a mixture of obviously the technical part of it. And it's it's just finding the right balance within your teams, that you are ticking all these four boxes, and your training sessions are very holistic, very that really brings all of these four parameters to life. So you're working on the tactics, but then you're not leaving over the fitness side. And if you're working on psychology, you're not leaving over the technical side. So it's just bringing all those four parameters together and always working in that balance. But yes, I mean, there's no one way to do it. You can directly tell your players what you have to do, or you can ask them questions and guide them through the process. But yes, it's a bit complicated to answer that question, really.
Yeah, it is because I think winning is not the only constant thing that happens with academies. No matter how big of an academy you are, you will always have downfalls and ups as well. The main strategy of football is be a good coach, build a good team. You need good players that are very dedicated, and then the rest of the back end strategies come into picture.
Yep.
So, but you still answered it pretty well. We have a follow-up question from Shaunak again. What are the ways to get into football coaching? Are there any certification or university courses which train you to get into coaching?
Yeah, so there's no university courses to get into coaching. Basically, you can just put up your football boots and just become a coach. But ideally, you should probably get some education. So you can either get education from the association, which is in India, the AIFF. They run their, I guess the entry level course is the D license right now, or the C license, and just see how you can get in touch with them and then just apply for this course. But then alternatively, you can also choose to do a course with the Football Coaches Academy if you think that you're ready for it already. So we have entry level courses as well. So 1 day courses, 2 day courses for coaches just starting out. And then you can choose to do them as well. But then, yes, it's very advisable that you gain some knowledge, so you have an idea of what to coach before you step into yeah, coaching football.
All right, true. We'll take up last two questions and then we'll end. But obviously, all the other people can still get in touch with Suraj through different social media platforms, and you can still ask him questions, and I think he'll be happily there to answer. We have a question from Kiara. Can you share insights into the popularity of football in Kerala compared to other sports? As we know, Kerala is known as the football capital of India. This is very interesting.
Yep. So exactly, it's just like, for example, in India, overall in India, cricket is doing so well. It's just because all the people, they just talk about cricket, and they just play cricket. There's players who are competing at the highest level with the best nations. So the popularity of the sport uh, for cricket in the country is just like the same as popularity for football in Europe, because that's the only sport they play. There's competition against other nations over there, and because they are doing so well, it's just that. And if we can just bring that thing to India, what Kerala has done right now, um, it could just yeah, it would be really great, because like in Kerala, there's a lot of tournaments that happen. There's a lot of people really put their heart into football, and you can just call it a hotspot, just like Kolkata is, just like Goa is, or the Northeast is. And yes, so if we can just get that thing into India, we will definitely be one of the footballing nations.
True. I second that a lot. We'll take up one last question. As a coach, what qualities or skills do you prioritize when scouting and selecting young players for development within your teams?
Yeah. So a very objective question. It's talent ID is has got has got more to do with a few technical parameters, which are how good the player is 1v1, how good the player's first touch is, how good the player is running with the ball, and then how good the player can strike the ball, so can pass or can shoot the ball. So these are the technical parameters that you look at. And then within time and space constraints, so when time and space is reduced, how good the player performs is it's just that is just gonna tell you how good or not bad, but competent or not yet competent the player is at that level. Apart from that, obviously, there are some socio-psychological elements, which are, is that player gonna be coachable, or is that player gonna be a problem for your team, or is that player how good his EQ is, how emotionally stable and stable that player is, how can he cope well with wins, with losses. These are things that these are also factors. And then also there are physical factors such as explosivity. If the player what people really go further down the road, and they also see their genetics and how their family is. And uh, if their parents are obese, it's a good chance that this person may not be a good fit to invest into the team. Uh, uh, but I believe that you just see the player at where they are today and then just make a decision, because there's no guarantee that genes are gonna play such an important role that the player, even with his will and determination, is gonna not end up on a right roadmap to be a footballer.
Yeah, so I think there were a lot of good questions today and so much insight from you. I thought it is going to be more like what do you think of Indian football and everything, but it was so detailed also because it was more about your experience in your academies, which is always good to hear because you've done it for a long time and you've reached a certain level where people can actually come up and ask you as to how you're doing in how you're doing things in your academy, which is great advice and insights for everyone. I think I've had a wonderful time talking to you today and learning so much from you. And so, as our community, there are already people that are started to thank and say, appreciate your time for them.
No worries. Thank you so much for your time as well, Victoria. And was lovely sharing some insights on football.
All right. So thank you so much, Suraj. I'll catch up soon. If you want to, tell them about your coaches football academy, how they can get in touch for like as conclusion, will be nice.
Yeah, so we have our Instagram page. Our website is down at the moment, but then if you could just type the Football Coaches Academy on Instagram, I think you'll get it. And we run courses across India, entry level courses from professional to amateurs for everyone, really. So yeah, get in touch if you are really looking forward to being a football coach.